Right.
Yeah, spark it up and then mute us.
Awesome.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you guys.
Now you're on. Because we were talking about you, George.
All right, that's all right. Well, the first one.
Time is 6:01. It is Thursday, February 29th. Calling to order this meeting. And in attendance, we have myself, April, Mac is here, Jason here. We have a quorum of 4 of 7 members. We have no minutes yet from any meetings, is that correct?
For the last 4 meetings.
Okay. We need to, see you have the 11th, the 19th, the 25th, and February 8th. We need to get the minutes from. Okay.
Matt will be taking minutes first then.
Right now. If we can get, if I have to do it, I'll do it. If we can get the notes that the secretary took, I will put them together so we can have all these minutes to approve it next time. President's report, I have nothing significant to report this evening. The treasurer is not here. Oh, there he is. Kevin, right? Kevin, we've already begun, we've established quorum. We have no minutes to approve. The secretary hasn't published them yet, so we're gonna get that done post haste. I have nothing significant with the treasurer is not here. We're on to officer reports. VP, you're up.
Well, great. So I ran the numbers for, the different addresses in each area for soil testing. And so what it looks like and what I'll be looking for from the board today, if we can, given that our treasurer is not here, is, approval for, some of this testing. Or at least prioritize what we do or don't want to approve tonight. So right now, it looks like we have 2 spots in the HOA at the dog park and at the lake house that need to be tested. There's 2 types of testing. There's nutrient testing for the soil, and then there is fungal disease and what's the other term? Virus testing. So the nutrient testing is just $10, and the sampling is not terribly bad. It's about a pint full from a designated area. And then the more in-depth disease fungal testing is $60. And that will be a 6x6 area of the sod and some of the soil. So yeah, just a 6x6 per. So when you look at the testing fee, we'll have to do a mailing fee unless someone wants to drive up there and drop it off in Gainesville, which is about 2.5 hours away.
You can fly it.
Yeah. Then, so we'll just have a mailing fee with the testing. Takes them about a week, max 2 weeks to turn around all the information for us, along with solutions as far as here's how to treat, here's what you're missing.
So
Here's
that'll be part of the report.
the solutions, right?
Okay. Awesome.
A lot of it's already posted on the website. Once you identify what's going on,
Right.
a lot of that's already out there. So that's what we have so far. We've got 2 areas for the HOA. So if we did both nutrient testing and the disease testing, it would be $140 from the master. We have 1 location in Sandpiper Crest, so that would be $70 from the Sandpiper Crest budget, plus mailing. There is 1 location in the paired villas. It's Kingsley Corner Way. And then the larger sum comes from Sagewood. There are 7 locations, or I'm sorry, 6 locations in Sagewood that would need testing, and so that's $420, again, plus the shipping. We may be able to do a bulk shipping, obviously, for all that, depending on how you guys want to look at it. But given that it's kind of, it's been taking some time to get all this information together and finally track down which labs we'd be interested in Gainesville. If we could, I'd like to try and get the board to approve something tonight. I don't know if we have access to the budget of what surplus they may have, or
Right now, we're not 100% sure of the
gotcha. The financials.
the financial. Because we're moving forward with BAS, which is great.
Right.
It's right there.
No, it takes some time. Yeah. So then I guess the question, do we want to take a vote tonight, or do we want to wait another month? To approve? Or is there a middle ground saying,
Making a motion or a recommendation price is, why don't we approve it to a not to exceed price when funding is available, so it's ready to go.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as soon as the treasurer says we have $1,000.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna be less than $1,000 probably.
Right.
But I did my public math, it's $700, but that would be my way. That way we don't have to vote for it. It could just be executed.
So the motion would be to approve up to $1,000 for soil testing pending approval from the treasurer.
Right, funds available.
And that's gonna come out of $1,000 total.
that's
So
the
the
question?
question, because is it gonna be charged each sub?
Well, yeah, it distributed as it was, so there's 2, there's 140 here, 70 for Sandpiper, 70 for Paris Villas. And 420 for that, so it came up to
Sagewood.
700 plus, yeah, Sagewood, $700 plus. So those numbers with that budget
Right,
is what I would,
not to receive the next one.
and then, you know, we're just putting a little fund factor in there to say, oh,
Yeah.
1 more came due or something.
And that's, would you want to add to your motion that we still expect it to come out of each community's
Well, yeah,
appropriate budget.
Yeah,
And then once the treasurer says, so it's not $1,000 per community.
it's a
Overall.
total, for the entire community broken out, as you said,
Gotcha, okay,
140 for the master, 70 for the sandpiper, 70 for the villas, and 420 for Sagewood. The the last rate plus shipping, it'll just be prorated and then it'll be charged to those individuals.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be one of those things where if the, one of the communities was tight, the master could forward it and just be reimbursed, I'm assuming, down the road.
That makes sense. I mean, it messes the books, but
Yeah,
we can do it.
yeah, okay.
If you second that.
well, the only other thing before we make that motion is who's gonna do the sampling? Who's gonna cut the samples out?
Well, that's a separate issue, isn't it?
Well, but it's a matter of, does it go to, do we have a, for the places where we're paying for lawn maintenance, can the lawn maintenance crew do that?
I mean, they can do soil samples. So
So that, and that's what I'm saying.
They just dig up a soil sample for us to send to Gainesville. Would they do that for us?
That's the question.
I'm sure they would. I don't know if they're gonna have the bags and the box.
If you're trying to maintain the independence of the project separate from our landscapers, then it should be somebody on the board that does.
Okay, and that's what we need to just clear up so that we don't end up going approved and everybody goes, who's gonna do it?
Oh, no, I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's terribly difficult. I mean, these instructions are meant for homeowners to be able to do themselves.
How far down do you have to dig?
So, for the nutrient testing, 6 inches. But it's not huge. It's not, so the 6 by 6 is the sod itself, right? The soil nutrient testing is 6 inches underground. Because they want to get the tilled soil that, as much as they can in there. But it's gonna be, they say between 15 and 20, like 1 inch by 1 inch, but 6 inch deep sections throughout the yard of the whole.
See, that's was my, gonna be
Yeah.
a question before you do that. So the Safeway properties, if we just go around to 6 different locations and put it all in one container and send it in. Because if there's a fungus, it's gonna be throughout the whole community.
No, it may not be.
So they have to be packaged individually.
They would, the samples would be packaged individually, otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
Now, as far as the packaging and stuff goes, they will, the nutrient testing especially will send out boxes and all that kind of
Okay.
stuff and bags for us to collect with. The 6 by 6 sod for the virus and fungal testing,
Mhm.
they're a little less concerned with mixing of samples and such. They're just like, you can do a normal one or we can send them out, but the samples or the bags and stuff are free. The kits are free to do the sampling.
So we just need the labor and then the freight.
Right. So not terribly complicated, but it is gonna be a little bit of effort to get in there and do it. And then the instructions aren't terrible, they're not difficult. The big thing is the nutrient testing requires that you, basically you kind of go throughout the entire area that you wanna have tested. Then, you dry all that out, mix it all together and give them 1 pint of the whole area, because we don't want to mix up like what's out here, with what's, all over. But generally they want to kind of get a good general area. And then they'll find in there what's probably missing. So that you can either, so there are some specific ways to go about this, but it's nothing that we can't handle.
I think we could, I mean, I've got a spade and
Yeah.
I got a 22-year-old underweight daughter,
Yeah.
she can come
There
in
you go.
too.
No,
Just take
a
a piece of PVC, pound it in your.
And
little force there.
a rubber mallet, I have a rubber mallet, PVC,
Okay.
copper mallet.
Is it going into
It's your
anybody's
project, or
backyard?
whoever Wants to help you out, or if you wanna go out and do it yourself, coordinate, you seem
Well,
to.
now I feel like I just got nominated. for-
No,
This is a girl with arms that don't work. in the
no,
hand.
but you know the process, so
Yeah, no,
you can
definitely.
guide
You
and,
can supervise.
right,
But yeah, I'm like,
yeah, so as long as it can be done
Cause
around
you have,
my travel schedule, I'll be happy to help.
you have to
Yeah.
coordinate with the homeowner to make sure they're good with it, and, just show up at their house, taking.
no,
photos.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay,
I bet the April and that will coordinate.
Right, well, I'll be the labor.
Okay.
I'll be out of town till Tuesday, but I can fly them up myself to Gainesville and it's a lot quicker, so.
If you're willing to do
Yeah,
that. we do
that's
that.
fine.
It's
And it's easy and it's a good-
field trip for us.
It's a good excuse to go fly. I can take one.
I think he's talking about an ad drop.
Yeah,
Right.
It's quicker. Than.
all right, let's press, so, Matt, could you restate the motion, please?
Okay, so my motion is that we approve not to exceed $1,000, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 10 sampling sites, which would be $700 plus shipping. Labor is, then that also includes supplies is provided. So it's really just HOA labor. So that the total cost should be under $1,000. Right, $300 just for shipping should be,
I mean, if we're flying it up there,
It'll be free, so, yeah.
oh, okay, well, if we have to ship, yeah.
give them a Chick-fil-A voucher
Yeah, there you
for
go.
lunch.
Okay, so,
So you're gonna order the paperwork.
I'll take care of all that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do all the paperwork and the ordering and make sure we have the right instructions, and happy to do that piece when it comes to the manual. with My hands, I'm sure it's jacked.
yeah, no, that's fine, yeah, okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. I think Kevin seconded it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None?
Awesome.
Motion carries.
Thank
The
you
next
all.
item is your team survey.
Yeah, thank you all for your patience and the soil stuff, but for the teen survey, thoughts and ideas, but I would like to see if we can put out something to reach our somewhat older kids. We have playgrounds for young kids. We have, pools that are family oriented, I think, but we don't have a lot of stuff for older teens. The basketball hoops where we've got a lot of folks who are concerned about some of the behavior, but I would like to try to put out something just to see if they can provide us some input of things that they would like to see for their level in the community. I gave some examples in the write-up that I provided. I'll go back over that again because I don't believe it's in the agenda. So just for the sake of those who are out there, sorry, let me bring it up. Working from multiple places. All right, so examples might be like a Ninja Warrior or parkour type area as opposed to playgrounds that are just for young kids, something like that, along that. And they have some at some of the other, I've seen them at other parks and playgrounds, that kind of parkour, American Ninja Warrior type activities. Possibly maybe a teen only pool hour, set aside, possibly lounging or gaming area. We've got workout areas, we've got things for little toddlers and stuff to be at, but maybe giving them a place or a space where they could possibly meet up, and so that they're not meeting in places where we don't want them to, or where people are complaining. And then I know there was a mention before in some of the discussions that we had during the voting sessions about, we have folks who could possibly need some labor to help take care of their fines. Is that something they might be interested in? And then, how would they see that happening? Just getting their input. So nothing formalized, just really want to kind of get some input from that and bring it to the board to see if there is anything we think we can look at for future years, where we could start to help kind of make space, right? A more adult friendly space for people who aren't quite adult yet or don't get to vote at the HOA boards. So that was my thought, open to discussions or ideas or concerns. Just trying to engage all the members of our community, not just the adults and the young kids.
I on all your different ideas. I like the maybe extended game room teen night hours. We could do that. I like the if we can pull it off a teen event at the pool, maybe just a teens only event at the
Once a
pool.
month
That's not a bad idea if we can do that.
We used to do that where I grew up, it was fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
as
get
far
them-
as like a parkour course or something like that, when I joined the board, I initially had that same idea. The problem we have is land, right? The HOA doesn't have very much land. There is a process to transfer CDD land to an HOA. It's been done in other counties in Florida before. It's just you have to go through the county and transfer the land. And then playgrounds cost $100,000, so that would be a multi-year project.
Absolutely.
But the other things are relatively simple and cheap to do, is all we need is somebody to organize it. Which maybe we'll get to later tonight, we'll see.
Okay.
Give them some open response area and then a kind of survey to
Yeah.
put in their suggestions.
And I didn't necessarily want to give them things to feed them and say, do you want these things, yes or no? But I just wanted to give some ideas of things we might hear or see that could be viable from us as a HOA the support.
I think a lake house team would be cool, you
Yeah,
know?
the game room, it's a
Yeah.
game room, because this way they can come and go.
Or
Yeah,
both.
Yeah,
Put a movie on in here and games out there. And
right.
yeah, I mean, if they have Wi-Fi here, then sometimes they don't even need anything up there.
Right.
They've got all their little, it gives them a space. We'll have maybe some floating adults, you know, we could take volunteers, but that way they don't feel like they're being hounded. You have your time, as long as everybody's being respectful and encourage that kind of community involvement.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that sounds viable, then I'm happy to either let the appropriate committee run that if you think that's appropriate. I just think it's a good way to start engaging a slightly different population than we haven't done before.
could be a good social committee action.
It might even be a subcommittee of the social.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
it might be one of the things where parents of the teens could set up a committee so that they're the chaperone slash supervisors of the event. They don't have to be sitting right in the corner there, but they're here, they're monitoring it. And that way it takes it out of the board. Board just gives the whatever funding's required, the funding,
Yeah.
and then it becomes a subcommittee. I think that would be. the
Those are
way to
great.
move forward. But, and I agree that I was here when we thought about it, and, you know, transferring land, the CDD has to redo it.
Yeah.
So that's what the first thing I said was
Yeah,
cost, facilities and infrastructure with the only thing I had, but I like the pool, I like here, you know.
So no real motion here, just a good idea brainstorming session.
yeah, well, I'm happen to be the social liaison, so I'm happy to take that. I'm assuming that's one of my duties at some point, I'm not really sure yet, but taking that over to the
Yeah.
social team and just letting them know, hey, this is something we would be interested in, how would you guys want to take that kind of thing on, here's some suggestions, and then report back to you guys on how it's going.
Love it.
Survey monkey.
Yeah, so that might use the way to go.
Our job, and I think.
Yeah.
that would do.
Your next item was board dynamics, so this is in the agenda.
And I'm happy for us to move that to the end so that we can take care of any other
Okay.
business at the community level, and then anybody who doesn't care about our board dynamics is welcome to sign off, and then everybody else can stick around. I don't want to take up people's precious time, the things that they don't care how we talk, communicate to each other.
Sounds good, yeah, move that to the end. All right, any other officer reports? I don't think so, we don't have the secretary or the treasurer. Okay, community manager report. What do you got, Patty?
You wanna read that?
Is it in the packet?
Yes.
I got it, I got it. I'll read
Maggie's
it.
taking on everything, and look at this. Making up for being in,
Management report, right?
there we go.
Board meeting, 29 February, 28, 29.
29
Yeah,
legal.
today's the 29th. It's my wife's birthday is the 1st of March, so it's a good reminder for me. Okay, location of the board meeting is here at the Lake House, and also virtual. Management report, the AC unit has been installed in the fitness room and has been inspected by Hillsborough County. The fire marshal has been into inspect the fire extinguishers and will be back again after Piper Fire re-inspects the extinguishers.
And
So
that's been done too.
that's been completed?
Yep.
And the follow-on inspection has been done to include the fire, so all the inspections are required.
Not the back,
The fire marshal still has to come.
for the back door,
Okay.
which is different from the.
Okay, got it. Pool maintenance, the palm trees were removed and the bud rot was determined to be the disease. The other trees needed to be sprayed to prevent the spread of the disease throughout other trees. They tried to spray on Friday, which was the 23rd, I guess it was.
Yeah.
The wind was too strong and was planned to be returned on February 26th.
And
Yeah,
that
they
was
will do it.
completed. Yep.
And that was also completed on the 26th.
Yep.
Excellent. Dog park, I am still meeting with different companies with different options for the dog park and turf. I planted some micro clover in front of the lake house and seems to be growing. Currently working with Tom from Sunrise to get on information on planting at the dog park. But we hold off till we find the results of that, or are we gonna,
Well, this is all sand, this is to cover the sandy.
so just something.
I don't know if it wasn't necessarily just grass too, people mentioned Cheryl, people mentioned a bunch of other things.
Right.
There were many responses for all volunteers. I will be bringing the information to the meeting for the appointment of members to each committee. That's nice to hear. If the board liaisons have certain nights that they would like to have their committees scheduled, please let me know to schedule for the year, which is helpful too, right? Baird Villas installed an the electrical of the timers are still moving forward. The final phase of Ballinger contract connecting to the new units is going to be set up with appointments with homeowners to enter the garages, to disconnect the old units and calibrate the new Hunter units. Okay.
The only other thing is the Easter event is coming up. And I don't know this, I updated. April on it just a few minutes ago. We're gonna have an Easter bunny at $505. A rock wall for the bigger kids is $1706.75. The bunny bounce house, which is a new addition, is $636.65. And then Easter eggs, probably about another 600 for the eggs and the candy, and then a DJ at 800. So right now it's looking like $4,248.30. I just need a motion to approve. The amounts. I mean, they're paid, but until we have the budget.
So are there any other additional expenses that we get a cushion for the Easter event?
No.
No, that's it. Okay.
Is that tracking with what we spent last year? Ballpark number?
It's $600 more than last year.
You said it's a little more?
Yeah, about 600, I think. Is that what the assumed budget was? 3,600, was that last year's budget?
Last year's, I think we spent 36 something last year.
So is it just inflation costs or?
And
the bounce
The bounce house.
Oh, the bounce house is new? Oh,
No,
With an
the
antenna.
rock walls too,
Oh,
because it's
wow.
for the bigger children.
Yeah, yeah.
So
okay,
it's not the small ones, and now this one's even bigger.
okay, no, that's fine. I have no
DJ
problem.
there too, right?
And the DJ, that's right.
So we can.
That's a lot of bang
more
for the
this
buck.
event.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and as long as he's playing appropriate Easter bunny music.
I mean, I'm seeing that one. I'm not, I was looking through the master, I'm not noticing what the budget is for the social committee advice, how some of this goes, so it would be helpful once we get, I think, a copy of what's going on financially, so that,
And some will spend more, and others we,
yeah,
who won't, so.
but to
So
know,
this is just, we're not paying for anything for this. This is, I mean, we're paying for everything. There's no need for the homeowner to. That's right.
Purchase any tickets.
It's just the way it's been, if we can afford it.
we just don't know,
I mean, we have the money now,
yeah,
but later in the year, we may not be able to do as many events as.
But we do have budget for this. Okay.
So I'll second it.
So
Right? I mean, I think the second came before the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you motioned for it.
I appreciate your ambition.
My bad. I thought we were all in agreement. My bad.
do we know what other events were planned last year? From a social perspective and how much those were, so we can kind of get an idea.
Hi, can I interrupt really quick?
Awesome.
So, so I planned, and booked all of that last year. I was told, they had an Easter bunny volunteer. I wasn't aware of that. And being that Easter is a little bit sooner this year, than it was last year, I wanted to just get everything secured. The bouncy house is obviously for the younger kids. Rockwall will appeal more to the older kids. And then the new addition is the DJ, the food trucks, all that's new. I believe from last year, the approved budget was 21,000 total for the social committee. Sorry,
That was for the whole year.
for the whole year. So, and that's without pulling money from the lake house rentals. Right? Like, is that, that's where we were?
That's where the money comes from. It gets allocated.
No, the 21,000 is in the budget and then
Oh,
Additionally,
So
because I think that's what April was just asking, what's the budget?
Yeah, just, it helps us to understand before we
Right,
say.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Thank you.
So we're spending
So-
probably 20% of the budget. for
Exactly. So
Easter.
my thinking,
Sounds
my
reasonable.
thinking moving forward is just 4 large events for the community. Sorry, I'm on my headphones. I don't know if I'm breaking up,
No, you're
but
good.
4 large events, hopefully for the community. A year, one in the spring, summer, fall, and winter respectively. And, that's kind of thing, but we can all figure that out and plan out future events and budget accordingly for the rest of the year, now that we have this new committee that's getting formed. So that's my thinking. I just wanted to get the spring one kind of done booked because Easter will be on us before we know it. And I know last year everything was last minute and it was hard to pull it together. And I didn't want that.
Yeah, I think we should maybe just make a summary of what she said, just so that you may not have been able to hear it. So
Yeah.
the overall,
They can, if
They
she's
can hear
speaking on Zoom, she
they
can
can
hear.
go through it?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Crystal. That's fantastic.
So do we add a little cushion to it, approve the Easter budget, it's not gonna go up to 5K, but approve up to 5K for the Easter budget. For anything that might, any emergencies.
Not to exceed.
Motion is to approve $5,000 for the Easter event.
Kevin?
I'd like to second that.
All in favor? Any opposed? No. All right, motion carries.
Yeah.
Yes. What's next?
In your packet, you see
Oh, wait, did we finish community manager's report?
yes.
Okay. Sure? No. We did not.
The dog.
Perryville is installed an electric, installed an electrical retires. Did you read that part?
Yeah, I did. I don't know, is there any, there were some people who seemed to be.
Yes.
That's good. We're good. I mean, is there any? Or is that gonna be?
I saw that. It's scary.
Okay, sounds great. Good to know.
Thank you, Mac.
Joey Tashmash.
You are gonna hear from me over the week because the AC in this building is not good. I've been sending Kevin little emails here and there. So I have another one I'm gonna send. you.
Kevin, all right.
Okay.
Right, and then.
Things
once
are
I
pretty good
have-
with the other AC over there.
Yeah.
It's a good deal.
So this is because we have 2 boxes out here and 1 handler. in here.
Oh,
So, yeah.
okay, we'll look at it. Yep.
I'll send it to you. So once Kevin gives me the okay to share it with you guys, I'll send it out to everybody else.
Okay.
He's my maintenance guy now.
I don't mind.
You can dig up the grass.
But you volunteered for that.
No, I just volunteered to help coordinate.
Oh.
Want anybody in the, going in somebody's backyard getting gun poked at you. so-
Now to bring a beer.
All right, what's next here? You got the management and attorney status report. Is this for,
This is just who's at the attorney.
tracking?
Yep.
Got it.
Usually,
For collections and things like that, okay, you can skip that. And then we got committee reports. Okay, let's talk about the volunteers for a second.
Yep.
So we put out a call for volunteers. Everybody wants to be on the social committee. And hardly any volunteers for any of the other committees. So what I recommend we do tonight is approve if somebody, so some of the people that volunteer for the social committee volunteer and said, hey, I'm good for social or this or this.
right, or
So
and.
we take those people out and leave them for the other committees, because some of those only got 1 volunteer.
Mhm.
And then whoever's left, we approve that as the social committee tonight. Leave the other committee volunteers open for another month and hopefully get a few more. We'll do a Facebook push and an email push. And hopefully get a few more volunteers. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Do we need to by name them, Patty, right now, approve the social committee by name?
Yes.
Okay, I can do that. I have a spreadsheet.
you have yours.
So the social committee members are going to be then accounting for the duplicates. It's gonna be the 2 existing members, Crystal and Daisy. And then you got Kathy Cardwell, Elizabeth Charles, Chris Futrell, Anna Garinga. I told you we had quite a few volunteers. And then there's one person, I don't have her name, all I have is an email address, so I'll have to get back to her. It was, her husband volunteered her and said, hey, my wife would like to be on the social committee.
Right, but she's only available on weekends.
Here's her email address, but it's not her name, so.
And then.
But she also wanted to be on finance too, so we'll.
Well, that was my question. If someone said, and
Mhm.
why not appoint them to the committee? As an end, right? So if someone said, I'm happy to be on the social committee and the finance, why don't we just
Because
put them towards the finance and still hope we get more volunteers for it?
some people volunteer for like 3 or 4 committees.
Oh.
We don't want to overtax.
Oh, so it's and or.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 names. I think that's good for a social committee, 6 people.
Yeah.
That's
Sure.
good. And then the other volunteers, we'll ask them to volunteer for some of the other committees that didn't get any participation. Then we'll leave those open. Because those 6 names, I motion that we approve those 6 names to be the social committee.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Thank you to the social committee people. there were a few other names, but we'll ask them, those people to,
Yeah, 'cause
fill one of the other spots on the committee. More participation, the better. Okay. Committee reports, we did that. Okay, so new business is the Balganic update. Are they online?
we have, George.
Nick is here as well.
Hi, Nick.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Not too bad, thank you.
Good. So,
Um,
a new board, as you know. We only have two members from the previous board, so I tried giving them as much information. I sent them the report that you sent. So they have some information, they have some questions.
okay, yeah, absolutely. So just generally speaking, I'll provide, again, my name is Nick Vargo. I'm an attorney with Balganic. We specialize in construction defect litigation. We have hundreds of cases throughout the country, I'm sorry, throughout the state rather, but we have several cases throughout the country as well. We've been in operation as a construction defect firm for close to 30 years. As you can tell, that's not me practicing that, but the partners have been doing construction defects for 30 years. And so in Florida, we've been here for a little over 15 years and very successful doing construction defect litigation, representing just communities like yours and pursuing claims against the developers and the builders that built their communities incorrectly. So with that, we have a lot of experience in our firm with over 25 attorneys in 4 different offices throughout the state handling claims just like yours or your potential claims there. And so when we've originally met with Patty on site, it was myself, managing partner, Jim Pritchard, and our building consultant for our forensic building consultant, Serta Building Solutions, and that was Mark Rose, who was there with us. And he's the one that took the photographs you saw in the report that Patty may have provided you and documented the issues that ultimately we believe to be construction defects. And so the original conversation started with Patty showing us some areas she had concerned. And as we're walking the property, we noticed several of the townhome communities were experiencing what we would call visual signs of water intrusion or distress behind the building cladding. And so some of the buildings were still being constructed at the time that we visited originally. And then there were several communities throughout that also had issues with what we saw as building intrusion just through our visual assessment again. And so the next stage is for us to evaluate that assessment and determine whether there are, in fact, systemic defective conditions would be to do further testing in the community. And that's what we're here ultimately to discuss today, is what that process looks like and how this affects your community or how it can help your community. And so starting kind of just at a high level, after we do the initial assessment, which was provided by Serta, we would need to then do what we call a town hall to introduce or provide that information based on just a visual assessment from Serta Building Solutions before moving and doing further testing, because we find that having buy-in from the community, especially a community as large as yours, is very helpful to ensure that we're able to move forward with the process. But also there's the legal requirement under Chapter 720, which governs your HOA community. And under that statute, the requirement is for the board to obtain a vote before moving forward with litigation, which could be more than $100,000. And so, and we believe the defective conditions that exist in these townhomes, the various different townhome communities, I believe there were 3, is well in excess of that value. And so this falls into the association's responsibility to maintain these areas and protect the community and ensure you have the reserves necessary to make the capital improvements at the end of the day regarding these defects, because really these buildings are going to deteriorate faster than what any reserve study is really going to show you, because once we do our analysis, we'll be able to show exactly where those defective conditions exist and doing further testing. So what our firm does, and one of the reasons we're so successful, especially in Florida, is we operate on a contingency fee agreement. And what that is basically we only represent communities that we think we believe have a strong chance of recovering against the builders and the developers. And what that basically means is we advance all the costs associated with the defect litigation, the testing, the experts, the litigation costs. We advance all of those costs on your behalf, and we with no interest, and we until we recover for your community. And so you all are not responsible unless we recover for you. So that's a really good situation for most HOA communities who don't have the finances to pursue the builders for this defective construction defect litigation, because it can get quite costly. So that's one of the ultimate values that we provide, in that is it's very limited to no risk to the association related to this process. And so once we get past that 720 vote within the community to say, okay, we're ready to move forward. Our next step then is to make the recommendation to perform further testing. That further testing is going to be called what we call destructive testing or invasive testing, where basically your buildings are like onions and layers. And so what a forensic building scientist does, or a forensic building engineer company does, is they peel back the layers of your building one by one so they can see how it was constructed and find those construction defects as to what's allowing that bulk water intrusion and the defective construction in violation of the Florida Building Code, so that we can pursue claims against the developer and builder. And then a licensed contractor puts that all back, and you never knew we were there, really. So it's put back in a very, very well done manner. We only work with companies that specialize in this kind of work. So with that, we put all of that back, and then the next step is to move forward with the test, with the litigation process. And so that would then start that process, which usually takes about anywhere from 18 to 24 months, depending on the claims and the facts that we have and all of that information. The reason we were saying this, and we've been so pushy really about this, is because there's several areas in your community where you are up against the time clock right now. So in last year, 2023, April 2023, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill that basically limited construction defect claims from 10 years to 7 years. And not only did he basically take off those 3 years from the time to bring those claims, he also changed the legislature really changed the start line of when that timeline starts. And so when that timeline starts is when each building is CO'd, basically certificate of occupancy, in other words. And so when your building receives a certificate of occupancy, whether or not the developers were turned over control, whether or not the other buildings are completed, that starts the timeline for that building to bring those claims. So that's 7 years that you have. And so when signing that bill as part of the legislation, they gave a grace period to allow all communities that are negatively impacted by this bill, meaning communities that were timely under the 10-year statute of repose that was prior, then they have till July 1st of this year to bring claims regarding the construction defect and still be timely. And so after July 1st, then you're under that 7-year mark. And we believe several buildings in your community are going to be untimely after that point. There are some that are still going to be timely, but we want to make sure the association has all of the potential claims available to them. And so that's the reason we've been kind of pushing Patty. Thank you very much, by the way, for making this meeting happen. But she's, we've been very pushy and trying to make sure that we are educating you all. And at the end of the day, giving you all of the possible chances to succeed and do the necessary responsibilities you guys have to the community as a board members, which is not easy to say the least. So with that, I gave a really high level view and I ran through it kind of quickly, trying to just be respectful of your time here. So please feel free to ask me any questions here. And, one thing I left out is, we work closely with the association, your general counsel, George Root with Stockholm Law Group, and making sure that we are compliant with the statute, the board's meeting their fiduciary duties, and making sure that, everything is above board with regards to the association doing the things they need to do. And so that's why, thank you to Mr. Root for allowing us to be here as well. So with that, does the board have any questions?
Yep, 2 questions to start. One probably for Patty and then another for Nick. Patty, which areas of the neighborhood are we talking about here?
Fairfield, Sandpiper Crest, and Sagewood, approach to Sagewood.
Okay, Perry Villas, Sandpiper Crest, and Sagewood.
Sagewood's not as bad and has a few roof issues that we saw from the inside. The Sandpiper Crest, as it was being built, Dan was here, Nick was here, and he was picking things up. We saw these.
Are we looking at separate builders or is this all one building?
I believe they're all separate builders.
No, separate builders.
I think Fair Villas and Sagewood are the same builders, but.
That's what I figured.
Neither do.
Yeah. We have the building records and I can look that up real quick for you if you'd
No,
like.
that's okay. Just saying separate or the same is sufficient. I know in Sagewood, we're looking at roof issues, some vents that weren't installed properly, which is causing them to leak with the tiles and then the
Sandpiper is the worst.
sandpiper. What do they got going on with them? Those are the
Tenements.
townhomes.
Yeah. And they're the newest ones.
Mhm.
So they have leaks inside, they have all their vents are put in incorrectly, upside down, sideways. And they're leaking inside. The retainer is the worst, that's what started, not anything.
I'm sorry, what was
The
that?
retaining walls.
The retaining wall,
Yeah.
so,
They're like collapsing.
um,
So if we as a community decide to go forward with this, and I assume this is one of those things where they settle and they determine a certain amount of money that will be given to the community to fix the defects. What? So that's the upside, they get the money to fix the defects, or do we demand that the builder fixes the defects?
So the part I kind of glazed over in my lengthy speech there was the initiating process of this is chapter 558 under the Florida statute, and it's commonly known as a 558 notice or a notice of construction defect. And what that statute says is that in order to bring claims for construction defect, you first put that builder on notice of those construction defects and allow them an opportunity to either make a repair if they like, or to offer money to make the repairs. Now you have no obligation to accept any of those offers, but the builder then has the opportunity to do the right thing. And this was legislature's an attempt to kind of avoid litigation as it is. It just doesn't work. And so candidly, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never seen a builder make a sufficiently reasonable repair offer to the community. And so oftentimes our community owners don't trust the builder to do the right thing either. So it really just goes to what the association wants and what that builder says. But I will say, as you mentioned, 99% of these end up resolving through litigation and some sort of monetary payment to the association, depending on the value of the claims. And that value is determined based on, again, that testing that is done. The experts then put together a scope of repair, and then another expert puts a cost to that scope of repair. And that cost is what we ultimately allege is the association's damages to ensure they have all the money necessary to make the repairs.
Well, here's a question. Just hypothetically, it's $1 million for the repairs. We go to litigation, you guys are gonna take anywhere between 33 to 40% of that money for your fees, right? So that leaves us with 600,000, but the repairs are $1 million. The homeowners in that area then have to bridge the gap of the 400K to make their repairs.
So yeah, there's a bunch of ways to kind of answer that question. One is, first, yes. So if there is some sort of shortfall, the association would have to figure a way to bridge that gap. However, my firm, as I said, we specialize in doing this. And so one of the things that we do is we make sure we cast a very large net, because the association really only gets one bite at the apple here to bring these claims. You can't bring roof claims and then later come back and say, well, we have building envelope claims, and bring claims for that. So we bring claims regarding the entire project itself and construction defect. And the reason you only get that one bite is because no developer or builder is going to end up paying money and then saying, and not having a full general release of liability from any further construction in that community. So we capture all of the issues that exist in that community, and we work closely with contractors that specialize in this type of construction, reconstruction, and rehabilitation of communities like yours. And basically we get what we call kind of a whisper number or a back number to kind of give us an idea of what the real costs are going to be to fix this community. And that's what our target is in taking into our cost, our fees, and what the association is going to net. Our goal is to get the association and the community as close to that number as possible, so they don't have to bridge the gap. Because again, if you do nothing, then you're stuck with the full $1 million repair there and the cost there. So our goal is to not only not have you stuck with that $1 million repair bill, it's to get you as close to that $1 million repair bill as possible. And we do a very good job at that. And most of our communities end up doing better than, where they were, especially. And we've never lost a case as well. I think that's worth mentioning, because I know that's a common question we get is what happens if we lose? And we've never not been able to successfully recover for our clients here in Florida.
This question may be for George. So
Ready.
if and when we recover these funds, do we write each homeowner an individual check, or does it go into the reserves because these are HOA maintained items?
It would go towards starting the repairs and or the reserves. Yeah, it's earmarked for what you claimed essentially. I mean, correct me if you.
Yeah, if you don't mind, this is actually a question we get commonly and we help out with. So
Thanks, Nick.
not only, and again, so not only once you're done with the litigation, you get that money, it goes into the pot for the association. It's not earmarked necessarily, for, if you get $500,000 from a stucco subcontractor, you have to spend $500,000 on stucco. It's more goes towards the pot of the association's general accounts so that they can make those repairs. And so one thing we do at the end of the litigation, we don't just collect the money and say, all right, wash our hands, we're done, we've done our job, we're done. What we like to see, and this kind of goes beyond, our contract a little bit, but what we like to see is you all actually make those repairs. And so we are happy to help you interview for contractors and experts that will help you determine the best way to spend this money towards the community and really stretching that dollar as far as it possibly can to get all of the repairs you need in the community. And so, like I said, we work with plenty of contractors that we can introduce you to, help you interview and give recommendations on throughout that process so that you all can be in safe hands at the end to make the repairs. Because at the end of the day, if you do nothing and you don't make the repairs, it really makes our firm look bad, because we do this all throughout the state. And so our goal is not just to collect money for associations to fill their coffers. It's more to make sure that the buildings last longer for the owners who purchased in that community.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, if they created a component that normally should have a 20-year useful life and the product they gave us is only a 10-year useful life, we collect money, that's an element of damages potentially. But if you recover for a component and we don't necessarily need to do a total replacement at this point, then that type of money would go in reserve, and other stuff that you're actively repairing would be more in the general fund.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was touching on a little bit and saying that, it's not it doesn't have to be earmarked for that specific item. If you, per se, I heard roof leaks earlier. And so let's say your roofs don't need to completely be replaced, but we get sufficient money that would allow you to replace those roofs. You can take the money and stretch it out and basically make prolonged repairs to those roofs as needed and put the rest of that money in your reserve so that it can continue to earn interest and allow it to work for you as well. And we've had several communities do that to make sure that, they're basically stretching out the life of those buildings,
Makes sense.
the useful life of those buildings.
Our villas are actually in worse condition. Their stuff is gone, their windows are coming out, they haven't been some forever.
You gotta speak up because they can't hear you.
Their villas are actually in worse condition. Is that over? They're fading, they have the cracks. If you ever drive by, you can see the cracks in the walls.
Yeah.
And that's all, this is the defects. So it's.
Yeah.
I
The
have a
paired villas are actually, so I think I heard something about the paired villas, and I just want to touch on those. Those are actually we weren't brought in. We noticed those across the street when we were brought in for the original townhomes that were reportedly having some leaks, but the ones across the way, we noticed the condition of those, and they had some extreme staining and what we call efflorescence around the exteriors of the building, which is what honestly brought us to make sure we made those recommendations and talked to Patty about that to ensure that the association was aware of that. So
Yeah.
what was the question though? I apologize.
No worries. I have a question, I may have been just misreading it, but so what is covered by your, third 40%, fee? So all of this, destructive testing, or the expenses, those costs included in that 40,000, or that comes out of the 60,000?
Correct. Correct. So the costs are just advanced by our firms. That'll ultimately be taking out of the recovery, and then our fee will also be taken from. Those are two separate costs that come out of that.
Have an
recovery.
estimation of what those costs would be just yet?
It depends. So generally for a community, just one of the communities that you have, it can range anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 just for testing, and that doesn't include litigation costs if they should go to trial. All of those various costs are variable, and it's hard to predict. But going to trial on these matters is quite costly. And then there's also the cost of depositions, and the legal strategy. But our goal is, not to spend as much money as some other firms may do. And again, we advance all of these costs. So as part of the partnership that we have with you, the better you all do, the better that we do. And so that's kind of.
Right, so if I may, so just so to be clear, so I understand perhaps the defect inspections and the restoration work is a cost, but the legal fees and the cost of the litigation doesn't come out of your 40%, it comes out of the award?
So yeah, let me be clear, I guess. Let's say let's go back to your $1 million hypothetical, and that's the recovery that we have. From that $1 million, you would then subtract the cost that it is, and let's say that's $200,000. And then from that 1 million, you'd also take away our 40%. And so those two costs are separate. Our fees include our work as attorneys in doing all of the work in that. It doesn't include any of the cost of the litigation. That's just part of the risk that we take on in taking your community on a contingency fee basis, which is why the percentage is what it is. And then it's also the fact that you're getting a very qualified law firm to handle your work for you, to be honest with you.
So in your math, $200,000 for all of the litigation, the court fees, and the discovery, shall we say, the engineering part of it, plus 400,000 to you, would give 600,000 out the door and leaving us with less than half at $400,000. That would then have to be used to make $1 million worth of repairs, which would then put the HOA for those communities on the hook for $600,000 worth of repairs because we've only recouped 40%.
So yes and no. Well, yes and no. So you're assuming the fact that the $1 million is what it costs to repair. And so if we were, you're assuming that we only recovered $1 million. Our goal would be to recover enough that you net that $1 million or closer to that net $1 million. So that's one thing where your hypothetical is just a little bit assuming that part. But yes, otherwise, again, that would be, you know, the scenario there. And it would put you all in your community in a situation where you're not stuck with the full $1 million bill as well.
So we would be trying to roll in the extra $600,000 in our ask for the builder to cover it. So we would be going after $1.6 million in order to and net $1 million, right?
It would be something similar to that. Yeah. So let me give you a better scenario here is the cost of repair, let's say, would be $3 million. We would look at that community and look with our contractors, work with them and say, hey, what do we need to recover so this client can make all of the necessary repairs they need in that community? And then from that number, let's say they say it's 1.6 million is really what that community absolutely needs to get. So we take that into account when we're making demands to the community, making recommendations to the board on what to settle for, and then what to do further and how to proceed better so that net dollar puts the association as close to that recovery, that 1.6 or that $1 million that they bet they need. And so they're not stuck with that delta that's going to leave them with less than half. That's why we only take cases where we think we're actually adding a benefit here. In that scenario where you only get $400,000 and you need $1 million, that to me would not be somewhere where we're adding a benefit. And we would not take cases like that, generally speaking.
One more question that might be stupid. Are we required to use your contractors?
There's no stupid contract, no stupid questions, by the way, but yes, no, you're not required to use our contractors. We make recommendations. We know contractors. If you all can ultimately, we'll get bids for you all to review. If you all have somebody you would like to recommend, we're always open to looking at that as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess one of the other arguments is that because of the defect, the cost of investigating that is also a cost that we have incurred. Therefore, it would be legitimate to push for that as a settlement, correct? That would justify. If it's $1 million repair, but it costs us $200,000 to find out it's $1 million repair, and it is a defect, then that would be a cost that we'd be able to pass. We should try to pass through, is what you're saying. So the actual amount could be 1.2, 1.3 million. Because that cost is a cost we incurred because of the defect. Is that a logic?
Correct. Yes. That's actually very good logic. And that's the exact logic we use when we make our demands to the builders and developers is that cost of doing that testing is part of us determining what those defects are, what exists. And that's a pass-through cost that we put in as part of the association's damages. Correct.
Great, thanks.
My only other question is, we want to do what's right for the homeowners, get everybody their houses in order. What's our liability as the association in this case under the law?
So the associate, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna really kind of turn over to George here and saying, this is his area usually of expertise with regards to the fiduciary responsibility of the board. I will say that as far as our experience, and we've done this quite a lot, is the board has a fiduciary obligation to ensure that they're protecting the community and doing what's necessary. There was recent case law that we saw out of Orange County, and I'll turn it over to you real quick, George. I apologize. I know this isn't my lane. And so basically what that said is the owners were holding or looking to hold the association liable for failure to even hold the vote for the 720 and refuse to even hold the vote, so the community could make a decision as to whether to move forward with the defect litigation. And so with that, I think that kind of sparks a little bit as to what the fiduciary obligation is. But again, I'll let George speak about it because he's a little bit more knowledgeable. This is his area.
Yeah, I would agree with Nick that, the vote in a way protects you. If you ask the membership to give you permission to pursue this and they say no, then I think you've done what you need to do fiduciary duty wise. There's not many scenarios where the membership doesn't approve it. There's certainly an argument that if you don't pursue a known claim situation, then there is potential risk. A homeowner saying you failed to meet your fiduciary duty. The only other liability risk is if the developer makes an offer of judgment and gets awarded fees or costs or something like that, but that never happens. I think there's a better chance of a plane falling on the building while I'm in this meeting than you being saddled with a judgment going the other way. So I don't think there's a lot of risk involved. I think Balgenic is taking most of the risk because if they don't recover, or they have to eat their costs. So typically they're not going to push a claim that they don't think is viable.
So for discussion, it sounds like we're obligated to do something, at least start the process and at least take it to a vote with community.
Right, because if we are now aware that there are defects, therefore, as a board, we are fiduciarily responsible for at least trying to mitigate them. If we lose the case by trying, then that's less liability than if we just choose not to try. Is that summarizing what you said, George?
You said it much more artfully.
Okay.
April, did you have something?
He's a great way like that.
Yeah, no, my only question, for Balgenic would just be that, do you have past clients, that you can provide contact information for as reference? Just, you never lost a case, got it, but are your customers happy with the process and how it turned out? Because what you settle for and what you go after may be two different things. So, are there any past clients that we could talk to just to get a sense of how they felt during the process, how they felt at the end of the process, and how their communities have moved forward post determination?
Yeah, we have a list of references we can provide. The only thing we would ask is, there are a lot of you on the board, and as part of that and part of our past clients offers to be references to us is that we don't want to saddle them with a bunch of different people in the community. So we're happy to provide that to the board, and any of you can call them as you like. We just ask that not every one of them. Hopefully you can select a representative to kind of speak to those references and talk to them. But again, yes, I can provide Patty with those and pass those along to you all. Maybe a little bit later today or tomorrow.
Perfect, thank you.
I've got several communities right now that are actively working with Balgenic on some claims. So I can certainly attest to and vouch with their handling of CD cases.
Awesome.
Thank you, George.
All right.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? No, sir. The only other thing we vote on now is to set town hall meeting dates.
Right, Nick and George, is that the best thing right now? We just choose dates to do the town halls. So.
Yeah, I think.
You're sorry,
Go
Nick.
ahead, George.
No,
go
I'll
ahead.
get out of the way.
No, absolutely. Anyways, so yeah, that would be making sure that we set the dates far enough out in advance that you meet the special meeting requirement. I believe it's 14 days. And then the town hall, we can do that whenever. I just need to coordinate that with our expert. We would like to make sure that he's available. Unfortunately, he wasn't available this evening, but we'd like to make sure that he's available at the town hall to ensure that he can adequately explain and intelligibly explain the defects that he saw in your community, so that he can also answer any questions as to the construction of the buildings. Whereas the second part of that town hall, I will be there, and we can answer, George and myself, or just myself, can answer any questions related to what the process looks like from a litigation or lawyer standpoint, and getting that done. I understand. And then the other big hurdle that we want to make sure that we're addressing is the size of your community. And with that, I understand there's the 3 different townhome communities. There's other communities as well in that same umbrella. They are all part of that vote process. And so in order to move forward with this litigation, there needs to be a quorum established at the special meeting, and then I believe it's 30%. And correct me if I'm wrong, if the declarations are something different in this community, but the statutory requirement is 30% of that quorum has to vote to move forward with the litigation in order for us to proceed. And then if that's unsuccessful for any reason, we have 90 days from the date of that special meeting to move forward and try to collect additional votes to get people involved in the community as well. So with the size of your community and with the little bit of time crunch we have, we just want to make sure we're taking all of that into consideration and preparing for this. And George, did I miss anything?
No, other than we'll need enough lead time to help you put the notice package together. And like he's alluding to, you're going to need time to collect proxies and remind folks. And if it's going well, you'll know well in advance of the meeting whether you're moving in the right direction, because you will have already collected a bunch of proxies and know where you're sitting at.
We would just need 30% of those 3 communities that are affected, right? Not the entire Fishoff West.
There's an argument that the entire community would be needed, and that's probably the most conservative approach. I think that's the one you take, Nick.
Generally speaking, that is the one we take. I mean, it can't be challenged by others, but if a single family homeowner wants to challenge it, they certainly could if they're unhappy for whatever reason. So that's generally our approach. I don't know if you all have had a way of handling it in the past that allows us to not go that route where we just use the 3 communities. We're open. I just don't know legally what the requirement is and how you all interpret your declarations.
So if the entire community needs the 30% and the entire community is doing it, are you guys going to then go through the entire community and inspect everybody's home?
No,
Okay, so
No,
then
The
so
way
we
the
don't.
statute's worded, the reasonable interpretation of the statute is that you need buy-in from the entire community, whether they're affected by the defect or not.
All of the members of the
that preclude
association.
anybody, like an individual homeowner, from going after a builder for a stucco issue on their own?
No. So at the end of the day, let's say we get to the end of this litigation, there'll be a general release. That release is going to be only as to those townhome communities, or only as to that, not as to the single family homes. And it's my understanding that there are several owners in your community that either have or are interested in potentially pursuing claims related to the single family home construction defects. That's not something.
The question was coming from.
But he does have an attorney.
Okay. Yeah, we don't do that, but we do work with other attorneys that can help you with that.
okay, so George, can I get a clarification? So what type of quorum are we looking for? Do we need more than 50% or?
I would want to look at the documents. The quorum is going to be no greater than 30%. It's capped by statute at 30%. So some governing documents, my clients have a lower quorum number. We can take a look at that. And then we'll look at the litigation statute as well to see if it's a majority of the quorum or whatever the percentage is. But
It's a majority of the quorum.
yeah. So your quorum will be no higher than 30%. It could be lower depending on what your bylaws say.
Let's give George time to look into that. Can we do voting on this electronically?
Not unless you've properly implemented electronic voting processes. And
We did electronic voting for board members in 2 years and 2 elections in a row. It works. That's how I believe we were able to make quorum. And I think that we would be able to make quorum on this if we made it electronic as well. Just another question. We can leave that
what
one.
vendor do you use for that?
I'm sorry.
What vendor do you use for electronic voting?
I don't know. off the top of my head.
Election,
What is it?
election.
Election year.
What do you think, Nick?
If you all have used it in the past and it's your understanding and your interpretation of your declarations and that's a reasonable interpretation, then I have no problem with moving forward in that manner. Again, especially if you did your elections doing that again. So the reason we do this statute or do it this way is because if an owner or a developer or builder lives in that community still or owns units in that community, they can challenge the vote. And so we want to protect any ability for them to challenge that vote. However, if they don't live in the community, all the owners are happy and developers, builders don't live in the community, no challenge, they have no right to challenge your interpretation of how you're reading your documents and enforcing those documents. So with that, it's kind of up to you all and your interpretation of your governing documents.
How does the voting system with the vendor you're using calculate proxy and calculate the quorum? I guess there's an online function where they fill out the proxy piece.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, conceivably, if you followed what the statute says to do with electronic voting, yeah, you could proceed in that manner too.
Absolutely. It's the same, it'd be the same as how you do your elections.
St. George and stuff, so it's-
With the intent, so two questions. When is the deadline that we have to file this by? You mentioned it was back up to 7 years. When do we have to?
1 July.
July 1st of
Okay.
this year.
We just read it.
And, okay, so then we do our two town hall meetings. And then that way it gives people different options to attend. And then we,
I
How
would
long does it take
recommend
from-
your first town hall, like third or fourth week of March at the latest, and then maybe shoot for mid-April for your vote, or Nick, do you have a different feelings about it?
That would be perfectly fine. Again, we just need a little bit, we just need time in between to make sure we have time to prepare the complaint and get that information. We can always do, you know, if we think this is something that the community really wants or the board really wants to move, there are other avenues we can take to protect the claims. And we can talk about that at a later date. But yeah, you know, as long as we have the vote completed by, I would prefer, you know, the beginning of June, because we have a lot of clients in your similar situation where June and May are gonna be very busy for us. I would just say that would be our preference, to have the vote completed no later than June 1st.
Let's look at the calendar here.
Well, do we need them? Can we just do that? I don't want to take this gentleman's time if we.
Yeah, I guess we can discuss, I mean, let's just set the first town hall meeting, let's take a look at the calendar and figure, and the first one will be at least, so that everybody can put something on the calendar and then pump it out to the community. And then get them to watch this video right here first.
Yes.
Sure. So would you all envision the town hall being virtual then, I'm assuming? I just gotta ask for our experts' purposes, and usually
Yeah,
if it's
you
either
never
here by
Zoom.
Zoom, he's good. Okay.
That makes it easier.
All
for
right.
everyone to attend.
Then yeah, if you all, what I would recommend then right now, just for purposes, again, for ensuring he has dates, if you all want to pick 2 dates right now for the first town hall, I think 2 dates will allow me sufficient leeway to make sure to get him to commit to at least one of them.
14 days out. Yeah. You wanna
Do we
do,
need 14 days to give notice? Because it's not a special meeting, it's just a town hall. So I have.
Correct.
And March 14th. The Tuesdays.
I'd say spring break.
Oh, yeah, the week of March 12th is spring break.
Spring break is the.
All right, so
Second
I'm gonna
week of
think
the
of 14th.
And generally, we like to, are you guys envisioning you wanting to do multiple town halls, or one town hall and then jump right into the special meeting for the vote? That's generally what we would do, unless we think it's beneficial to do it all in one vote because of the number of people. One day, one meeting.
we do 2 town halls, the first one kind of spread the word and get people talking, and then we do the second town hall, and hopefully we have more involvement. And we can have
And
time to get the election set up for the
Okay.
votes.
So if you did one the week of the 18th, that would be after spring break,
Mhm.
and then give it a week, and then do one the week of April 1st. So the week in between the 2 town halls?
We switched the meeting date, the board meeting date to the 21st instead of the 28th. Do we want to do?
We could do that and just wrap it all into one, that makes sense, does that work for you? So we're not,
It's like a 4-hour meeting.
Would you do like a Tuesday and a Thursday, maybe the 19th for the town hall, and Thursday would be the.
My recommendation would just to have a meeting, if it's a town hall, to dedicate that, because this generally takes, depending on the number of people, it's a large community, but even in our smaller communities, it takes at least an hour to get through this meeting usually.
Set the first one for Tuesday the 19th. It's a good time.
Can we do another date other than Tuesday 19th? I already have another community lined up for that one.
Okay.
I apologize.
How about the 20th then, Wednesday?
Okay, we can do
Does that
that.
work?
Sure. Let me make sure that works with Certa Building Solutions, but I'll make sure it does.
All right, that's the first option. First option for the first one.
Okay.
Do we want to
And-
do it at 7? This way people are home, or we want to start at 6:30?
You don't want to go on dinner time.
Yeah, I would do 7. 7:30.
7? 7.
7?
Mhm.
George, you good with these numbers?
Yes.
And then the first week of.
You're looking at the first week of April.
Mhm.
If we did it on a Wednesday again, that would be the third, right?
Or
That
should
works.
we for other people, in case Wednesday was a bad day for some,
Sometimes
pick a different day of the week. Just to give them an opportunity.
gonna do Tuesday.
Do the Thursday, the 4th.
Yeah,
Thursday.
I like Thursday the fourth.
You just like Thursday meetings.
Let's do that. Thursday the 4th.
Thursday, 7 p.m. and then we'll post it. George, I'll get with you on how to post it on the community website so everybody can start being told.
Sure.
And we don't need a quorum on the board, you just need
This is just town hall.
the town hall, so as long as.
Okay. And then so for my action item, just so we're all on the same page, is I will talk with Serta to see, make sure those dates work. And then 2, I will get you the list of references that were requested, and let me know if you need anything other than that from us at this time. We'll start working on getting the 720 vote and the special meeting notice and agenda prepared, as well as the proxy prepared for you all. And then you all can, George and Patty perhaps can connect on the voting electronically situation.
Sounds good. Thank you, Nick.
All right. All right. Thank you all very much for your time. We really appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Thank you, George, great update.
All right. The next item on new business is the delegates meeting date.
Yes, that'll be on it. So Mac is
I-
gonna be the man of the hour. tonight.
Well, I got a draft, but I need to get some more work
Yeah,
on
I
it,
knew I
so I'll
wasn't,
get that to you.
but he's gonna draft something to put out to the community.
Just the concept.
Sure.
We talked about it last year, and he's got garbage.
Yeah, when a second set of eyes, I'll gladly look.
Oh, yeah, no, I got a draft, but you know, and you actually know some of the.
Yeah.
You know the documents better than me, so if you can say, I may just go to you and say, what part do, you know, just point me to it, it'll save me some time.
Tracking.
But
Yeah.
I'll have an outline, I've already got one drafted, but I wanna redo it.
Okay.
Like
So
8
that'll be
writing
done.
projects.
We already talked about committee volunteers. We're gonna leave that open.
Yep.
Nothing that will business. Next meeting, we established the date. We're gonna come back to you for board dynamics. Do you wanna do? Community comments first, and then we can roll back to your board dynamics.
Yes.
All right. Community comments from anyone in the room or online? Doesn't sound like it. Okay,
Nobody's going off mute. Okay.
and then, all right, April, you're up. Board dynamics, and then
Okay.
we'll. This is just the discussion about the. Have a great night, Kathleen. Internal operations of the board and how we operate and things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, and other people may have other topics for questions, but we've been doing this for about 3 months now.
Thank you, George, we're good.
Yeah, thank,
Thanks, George.
Thank
All right,
you.
have a good evening.
You too, talk soon.
And there's a lot of, I think, nuance between what we can do versus what's in charter documents and
Mhm.
such. And so I want to make sure that I'm fulfilling the things I'm supposed to be doing, and that I'm clear, like the Outlook, there's a ton of email coming into Outlook. Who's looking at what, who's handling what, who should be focused on what, like,
Mhm.
should there be things that we are focused on? Because I don't want to miss anything I'm supposed to be doing. So those are just some of the, just from a communication standpoint, making sure that I'm not missing anything on, who's approving those posts. Just to make sure we know, because that's not something that's in our board documents,
Right.
right? So that we're all just on the same page.
let's see if I clarify, so a lot coming in on Outlook, I mean.
Yeah, like
Email? I thought
Right.
email's been pretty quiet, maybe I've just been missing it.
No, it's just,
Oh.
there's security reports coming in, there's all kinds of Facebook updates and posts. The stoppage, stuff that comes through.
So the social media type, you're also including.
Well, those come into our Outlook box for the board.
Okay, not my Outlook.
So
I guess.
for the security reports that come through, I'll like. all
Yeah, no,
the
I
things-
like that.
All the things you listed off, I'll just start addressing them, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, it's just. how do
So
we-
for security reports, there's nothing really for us to do about it. That's situational awareness. If there is a need for the cops to be called, the security guy will call the cops, and then he'll call me, regardless of what time it is. And then either me or Patty, one of us will get called, and then we'll handle it from there. But there's really nothing else that needs to be done. What I'd like to do with the security reports is start having somebody from either security committee, once we get it going, or the board liaison. work with the security company to compile some monthly details from those reports. And that's something that that company can just do. We don't need to sit there and crunch numbers.
Right.
And I'm gonna reach out to them this week and see if they can get those numbers to us.
May I
Yep.
interject real quick? Or, one of the reasons I asked is, I never saw them until I was vice president, and when I wasn't vice president, they went away, and I'm like, I think all board people should see them.
Yeah.
Oh, so I
Right,
didn't
I-
know, so I'm getting a ton of email that maybe not everybody
No,
else
I
is
get-
getting
I
it.
get
I get all the security
Well,
ones.
security ones come in, but,
Yeah.
but it's really, and this is, my wife has made this suggestion. Why, we need to advertise what's happening so that the people in the community
No.
realize why we have a security
So
system. And
that's what I recommended.
Right,
The
so-
president was like, I think we should be giving them a monthly roll up. And that's part of, I think, we have this, everybody has a report and we all have liaisons, but I think we owe that as a HOA to bring that report monthly with, okay, here's all the things that happened in the last month. Here's what the quarterly stats look like, and here's overall, the year or the year to date. Things are going up, things are going down. Here's some new things we're seeing.
Who's our liaison, the security committee?
Basically.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, then we just put that in your hat and then we'll get him the contact info for the security company.
Yeah, because they can roll it up.
They should do a
And
monthly
then-
roll-up.
Yeah, they should be able to.
And then reach out to them and see if they can get us a report that's digestible.
And,
They have a portal, so I'll send you the sign on to the portal.
Okay.
my daughter put together a newsletter, could be at any timeline, there's a security section in there. So it's not just even the overall numbers, but some of the egregious stuff that was happening. That, that just needs to be, people just have to
People
understand.
probably don't even understand that Luther's driving around overnight,
Right.
like most of the people, because they don't see them, they're asleep.
Right, and it's
Yeah.
what's happening, but not that, oh, this light was off or this light was
Right.
on, it's. No, I had to confront people that were consuming
Right.
drugs on our property and then they were hostile and I had to call 911. They need to know this, and then if it gets quiet. We have to be careful to say, well, there was no need for security. Well, maybe the security is what's driving, and making it more secure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's quiet, it means it's working.
Well,
Right.
you're the bellwether, because you and Tommy were the ones that were responding, so that's all, that's what I.
No, I would recommend that there be two things that we would ask for. I don't want them to just cut and paste all the reports we get each night into one big report. I want to see a graph, right? A very easily digestible, quick, here's the numbers. In some kind of overall, like, they don't have to do every single thing individually, but general categories, right? But don't just roll up a thing that we have to read or cut and paste.
I'll make sure it's
And
presented.
then besides the graph, then like what Mac was saying and what Kevin was saying was like, maybe highlight one or two egregious things, right?
Bullet point the egregious things.
Right.
Right,
It can just be highlighting, hey, for this last month, there's 2 or 3 incidences of this, and here's one story forward, right? And if we want to talk about, Luther getting some, hey, people know what Luther does. You want to do it if like your daughter's newsletter is a great place to put, hey, this is an interview with your security guard. Do you know who he is? And here's what he does. And if you see him, you can wave, right? Like, there's a way to do it, like kind of a community interview. Here's one of the people that works for you and you don't even know it because you help pay his, salary. But
You know what? If you come up with a great idea, you're responsible for running it. That's my
that's why,
So.
that's why I think it's a matter of like,
Bad idea.
Also.
if we have these things, like we have liaisons to a security
Yeah.
committee for a reason, like. We owe, I believe, our community members communication, and this is what you purchased, and this is what it's doing, because. Outside of me becoming a board member, I had no clue. The things that were happening, other than if I saw it out my window, and it bothered me, right, enough to call in and bother somebody, so. I think this is a great way to keep that budget where it needs to be, and people can see what their money is paying for. So I think the regular report is great. The interview is just an idea, like if people don't know he's out there, okay, we can find a way to get that plug in somewhere else, but.
So
But this-
anyone in the community is watching, the intent is to have a committee of community members involved in just security. So if this is something that interests you, if you care about the security of the community, you want to be involved and know what's going on and help get this data out, please volunteer. Thanks.
Yep, no,
Look forward to working with you.
cool. You got that one for action?
Got it.
Sweet.
Thank you.
On the Facebook thing.
Yeah.
Facebook is, mostly ran by Jennifer. She does the posts on Facebook. As far as approving posts and weeding out the scammers. Our IT guy kind of does a lot of that approving. Every once in a while, I'll jump on there, and if I see one, I'll deny it, but
Someone added me as an admin too, so I also,
Excuse me?
someone added me as an admin on it too, so
Yeah,
I deny scammers with extreme
yeah,
prejudice.
it's kind of a team effort because it
Yeah.
has to be. You get like 10, 12, 15 scammer requests a day.
Yeah.
You see it, and you know it's a scammer. Some of them
Today.
are creative. Some of them will find an address that's in our community, so you gotta do a little digging, right?
Yeah.
Today, this one person over on like Fish Rock Road, he has 4 different addresses for the same post.
Yeah.
We kept trying, so finally I said, stop, enough, you're not getting it.
Yeah, you can ban some of the
Yeah.
future, so that's kind of a Facebook thing.
that's example of why I'm asking, because I don't know who else has access to these things. I'm getting the emails, I'm an admin,
Right.
but I don't know what I should or shouldn't be doing, and we haven't really talked about it, and it's not really discussed anywhere. So I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page
Yeah,
for these things. So who would be out there, who's on?
I won't deal with Facebook.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah.
I have a minimal presence for a very specific reason.
No,
and I don't.
I just wanna make sure I'm not missing something I'm supposed to be doing, but also that I also know who is doing that thing. So if I see, oh, I know that you're out for the 3 weeks because you're gonna be in Australia, who's picking up your responsibility?
Yeah.
Who's got it? You want me to step in? Happy to help. Like,
Right.
you're out, you have surgery or something, like, things happen. But if we don't know who's doing what and who's out there and handling stuff, then we don't even know when we gotta cover down for people. So it's just nice to have these things kind of aired out.
Largely all of the emails are for situational awareness. Patty and Jennifer handle it. Who needs to be aware of them? Those two. And if it's something that sparks your interest or you have a question, you can email them, but if they need input, they'll reach out to us, but we just read it for input. That's why we have employees.
I'd like to create folders too, so I can get a lot of it automatically out of my inbox, and then I know what I can actually focus on.
Yeah.
Because I have some things that I am working or will be working, and want to make sure that I don't miss those, because there's hundreds of emails that come through sometimes, and you're like, oh my gosh. So that was just one. Liaison responsibilities. Now that we all are liaisons, okay, so security, you can help us run with some reports. Social, I don't know, what should I be doing? Who should I be? So there's a lot, I think, that we could iron out, so we know what we expect as a board for liaisons. For some committees won't be exactly the same, but hey, as a liaison, we'd like you to make sure they know what their budget is. We'd like to know, you go to their meetings and then you report back to the board, at least tracking what's happening on a high level. They, let us know and add to the agenda when they need to come in and brief, those kind of things, right? Like, am I on the money? Am I off the money? Does anybody know what's on the money, what's off the money? Because none of this has been defined.
As a liaison, your job is not to be on the committee, just to track the occurrence of the committee and be the CC on the.
Let the committee chair run the committee.
You got it.
The
But-
art committee is a great example.
Mhm.
They are self-sufficient.
Yes.
They run their program. Tom does an amazing job and very little involvement needed from the board.
So.
And when they need something, they reach out.
Yeah, so like, there's stuff happening with the Easter and there's budget and money being spent. I'm the liaison, not included on any of these emails, don't have a clue what's going on.
That was,
Right.
because we didn't have the committee, like Crystal said earlier.
Yeah,
because She just wanted to make sure it was done.
but
So
I've been,
in the
I've been the
future-
liaison since last meeting or 2 meetings back, so it's,
Well, it's up to the committee member to make sure you copy it in the can.
yeah.
So
And
that's
I
what
didn't
you're
even have a
saying.
list of who was doing what or who was assigned, so it's.
So moving forward, let's make sure that the committees know who the liaison is,
Mhm.
make sure that
Let's connect them.
it's all communicated, and then if you guys do anything working with that area, if you include whoever else, that'd be great.
Yeah, and what the general ROEs are, right? You can expect to be included on these emails. Do we attend meetings and come back with an update to you guys, or
No,
we
I
let
don't
the
think so.
committee
I
leads
don't
do
think
that?
I think that's the committee chair's responsibility.
Just
right?
making sure.
Am I tracking?
Who
Marcia, what
who
you said?
communicates budget stuff to the committee?
No, I think the
Leads.
liaison is supposed to attend the meetings and bring the information back to the board.
Is it?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's the way it
So
is.
what's the role of the committee
Maybe,
chair?
maybe it depends on,
They run their own projects and stuff like that.
maybe it depends on the relationship with that committee, right? Each liaison has a unique relationship, and if the architectural review committee is great on their own, and they just come to us for help, awesome, right? And
That's why Mark kept them.
Yeah,
But I guess, but yeah, I have a different perspective and partly because I live in another HOA also. And in that HOA, the committee chairs briefs the committee at the board meeting on issues. Kind of what Crystal just did, you know, Crystal said, you know, she was there to answer the questions and explain it. And the finance person, the treasurer, is the one on the side going, they're on track, they're not on track, you know, it's so. But, you
Then
know,
what's the point of me being a liaison? Should I be the one getting the information from the budget lead and saying, hey, this is what your budget is? Can you give me a proposed
yeah,
breakdown of how you want to use that money? I'll take it back to the board. You guys, anybody have an issue with this? And then I make sure that they're kind of on track and I let them, you know, so I don't care what
I'm
the
just,
answer
I'm just
is.
explaining a different way of doing
Yeah,
it.
I just
And I
want
think it
to,
empowers the committee chair.
yeah,
That's, you know, and so, you know, that way the committee can come in, committee chair, if there's something, it's not a day-to-day issue, right?
no, yeah,
It's just, or you're the one that may raise an issue. If you see something that's not going right, and you're the liaison and you're monitoring it, that's when you can intervene and say, I think something's not going right. But if the committees are created, they have committee members, they have committee chair, they're operating within their parameters. It's said, I see as a liaison as a monitoring issue as opposed to a leadership and management issue.
So empower the committees and the committee chair to be able to do the things and
They
then
wanna
come
do
to
it.
us with a recommendation, and we're just there. Kind of like a big brother, big sister to say, if you have a question, you can reach out to me for this committee and I'll bring it to the board and you're welcome to come with me to.
Correct. That's how I see it, you know, because it empowers the committee and the committee chair. And if
So-
people volunteer, they should be empowered.
so we attend meetings, so we just make sure the board's on track and they're doing the things they're supposed to be doing, otherwise how do we know?
Right,
Yeah, or get a report from the meeting, right?
I don't know, like, I think we need to set up what we think our liaison should, I mean, we're the board, we voted for each other to be liaisons. What do we want our liaisons to do? Do we want them to go to the meeting and then just notify if there's an issue, or, hey, on the agenda, can you make sure that the social committee chair has a chance to speak, because she's got this thing to talk about, right? Do we want to, do we want to ask Rebecca, do you want the liaison to help work the budget and make sure they're good to go and let you know if there's any issues? Or do you want to do all the direct budget stuff with them? I think those are things we just need to decide as a group.
I would suggest, you know, now that we've sort of set the parameters.
Yeah.
And since a couple of the board members are not here, why don't we bring this up to finalize it, or we can do it offline via email? That's a question Rebecca has to answer, right?
I wouldn't speak for her on that.
Yeah, no, but these are the questions we definitely probably need to iron out so that we're all just on the same damn page.
I feel like it isn't entirely necessary to mandate it's the same way for every committee, for every liaison.
But no, but I do think we need to be on the same page so that we know what's going on and we know what to expect. Again, if you are gone for 3 weeks and something comes up, who's covering your committee? How do you run your committee? Right? Do I make sure the budget's up?
But I don't think we're running a committee, the committee is being run by the
No,
chairperson.
I'm not saying that you're running, oh, good.
It
Okay,
isn't
what I'm
a-
saying is the things that the liaison is supposed to be doing during those 3, whatever months or so that someone's gone, that someone has to step in for him to know what to do. And how he does it and how his,
Again, I'm more of a minimalist when it comes to that, is if you're gone for 3 weeks, the committee chair knows they can pick up the phone and call Mark.
Right.
That's where you have a president for,
And
or
if
if
it-
Mark's not here, there's where you have to, if Mark's not here and you're the vice president, you need to say, hey, you know, he's gonna be gone for 4 weeks. All right, the vice president's gonna be running the meetings, then all the committee chairs need to be notified. They come to you if they can't work it through their liaison. The liaison's just not available. They have a way, the committee chairs have a way to go directly to the president or the vice president.
and then
And they can, right? Yeah.
and then now I've got to figure out, well, you're one of the committees that, do you talk to Rebecca, or does there?
Social committee is the only one that does.
So, well, I don't, sorry,
You're the only one, the social committee is.
I
the only
don't
one
know.
that spends money.
If I'm gonna be gone for 3 weeks,
just trying to level set.
isn't it on me to find somebody to cover down for me
If it's planned, but
and brief them and get them spun up as necessary?
if it's planned, but stuff
But
happens.
it seems like a lot to every member of the board know exactly how the other committee runs, unless it's exactly the same for everyone. it seems
I'm
like a
just
lot.
throwing out general ideas and questions and
Yeah.
concerns, because there's a whole lot of nada. And I don't know what the expectation is because we haven't all talked about it.
There is nothing that is gonna occur in the HOA that doesn't run on a month timeline. So everything that happens,
Except security,
even,
right? And you have the procedures in
I mean,
place.
even
Right.
security, if it's a security issue, call the cops and the cops handle it, right? There's no event that's gonna be, oh, we got an event. It's Thursday and we got an event on Sunday and we need to plan it.
Right, that's not.
It's not gonna happen.
Right,
That's right.
we don't have an
You,
event.
you look at things a month out, or 2, 3, 4 months, and if it's February and we have an event in April and nobody said anything about it, then we say something about it at the March meeting.
Exactly.
So,
Other than, financial problems or emergency expenditures and things like that, but
the,
again, that's where I
But
default
that's
to
where the
say.
board
But
has
that's
to come
what-
together anyway.
Right, and the president calls, or the CAM calls the meeting and says, hey,
the
so,
finance committee comes
You
into
know.
play towards the end of the year
Mhm.
when we have to do a budget.
Right.
yeah.
So really,
Big time.
January through June, there's not a whole lot for them to do.
Nope.
The election committee comes into play at the end of the year, so there's not a whole lot to do until they start planning the election.
Right.
Roughly, what, August, right? August, September, they start planning that. What other committees we got? Security right now, security's run, we don't have a security
We
committee.
need a committee first, so.
Yeah,
We'll take that.
one guy volunteered, so you can reach out to him if you want.
Yeah, no, I think if you can build that, I think it's valuable.
No,
So, yeah, so I mean,
But I agree. I think we need to have the community empowered to be part of this, not to just be dictated to.
Yeah.
But to actually come back to us with their suggestions, because they live here too.
And they're volunteering your time.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we gotta be respectful of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't really have to agree with everything.
No,
Right?
I agree with you, yeah, but we have to be respectful of it, and they should have input, absolutely.
So the liaison should be attending the meetings when they
I
are.
don't even, the ARC liaison doesn't attend the ARC committee meetings.
He used to,
Oh, what's that?
he used to.
What? What's it?
You said he used to.
Who's that?
The youths.
The youth. Me? I
One
never,
point in time. he
I never
was.
attended our committee meetings. Like once or twice to make sure it was running smoothly, I would attend.
Right.
And then I back off.
I think it was the previous.
I make it a habit not to tell people how to suck eggs.
Right.
It's your right. Where you wanna eat it. So. But like, that's why you spot check, right? If,
You wanna go
let's
to-
say that you're the liaison to the security committee, and the security committee was assigned to come up with a project. And it's been 4 months and you haven't heard anything, well,
Right.
that's when you step in, or it's been 2 months. That's what it's-
Have a relationship with them and, hey, how,
Right.
Yeah, or it's social
Check in, but
committee,
not
check.
like-
we got Santa Claus and it's November and we have no idea what's happening with Santa Claus
Mhm.
and. Then that's when you, okay, hey, what's going on with Santa Claus?
Shutting on Santa Claus.
Yeah, and in general, I think it's the social committee is the one that probably has the greatest impact.
Which is probably why I'm asking the questions, because I just want to make sure I know what my responsibility is and what the board is expecting, so that. Because I'm the social committee lead and there's things happening and
you're the liaison.
I'm the liaison.
Right.
So.
And so for the board, I'm that person. so
In
I'm
my
just like,
many years of serving as liaisons for different commands in the military, the liaison steps in when there's a problem. Right, so like I was the liaison between AFCENT and Marcent. And so when Marcent had a problem with AFCENT, they would talk to me and then I would go find the person and drag those two, put them together. And then I would step out of them. Cause that's what a liaison does, is puts people together.
Right.
So if someone on the social committee is like, I just can't get a hold of Patty. I don't know what's going on. And then they reach out to you and then your job will be like, hey Patty, did you get this email from Crystal or whatever? Like that liaisons are problem fixers, problem fixers. So other than that, you put people together and then you get out of the way and you go on to the next problem. That's how I've always done.
Makes sense.
I'm just making sure I know.
So would it be reasonable for us to say that for us as board members, as liaisons, our responsibility is to have a relationship with our committee, to be contactable
Yeah.
and to be CC'd on any communications so that we're up to date on what's going on?
Yeah. And it goes the other way. If the board is not hearing from a certain committee,
Right.
then the board would say to the liaison, hey, we haven't heard from this committee in a while. Can you engage with them and brief us?
Right.
Or get them to brief us?
And be the primary point of contact if the committee needs something from the board,
Yeah.
an answer, some money, some decisions, whatever. The liaison is the belly button they push, right?
Yeah.
And then as liaisons, I would imagine that it's perfectly acceptable for us to attend a meeting if we see fit, right?
Yeah.
We, like the
But
plan,
not
we just
required.
sit in the back corner.
Right, yeah, exactly. And just to, form that relationship, right?
This gets at what people, I've been a liaison in Korea and in Qatar, and people would always ask me, so what do you do? Well, I liaise. Like, it's a very nebulous job.
Right, that's why they have chaise lounges to liaise. Lots of French words going practice.
Is there anything else that you think we need to
Again,
include or?
These questions are making sure we have a baseline for how we want to run things and what we expect. I do some of it based on making sure that I know what's expected, but also because there's some gaps that I don't think we've all talked about. And some of you old people have been here doing this for a while and you got it. Some of those new people are just like, no one's yelling at me yet. So,
What else you got?
are there any other regular updates or reports that we want from any other aspects of the community? So we have like a security report. Is there anything else?
I would like pool report.
That's Jen's new baby.
Oh, I have enough new babies that I gotta get my feet on.
And I'll be honest with you, the other community, it has a lot of facilities. They have a facility committee. But they also have people that, it's not a 55 and older community, but it ain't a young community. And so they have, and it's a seasonal community. So during the season, there's a lot of people, so they actually have a committee because there's 2 pools and there's, it's a much larger.
I don't mean like a report, like they come and brief us. I mean, like from the pool company, a email report to the board. That says, this is where we stand with the current county violations. This is what I'm doing. This is how many you have left. Something like that.
We pay them actually to fix the violations.
Yeah.
And they don't really take care of the violations unless I tell them to. So it would come from me. not them.
Wait, what is this? I'm sorry.
So the health department comes in with the violation.
Yeah.
And gives it to us,
Right.
not the pool company.
Okay.
I advise the pool company to fix whatever violations they need to fix.
Tracking.
So
So if there's a real problem, then you.
So that report-
So you are our pool
I
liaison.
was trying to get Jen.
So you are a pool liaison.
That wing of the tape
Yes.
is the pool committee.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the pool committee.
Committee.
That's why Patty has one of 300. She's one of
3,000.
3,000. Sorry, one of 3,000 people in the nation with her specific skill set.
That's right.
It's a very particular skill.
I don't hate the idea of a facility committee that way. Because there's always like, this stuff is broken and that's not happening, like. For someone to be able to kind of funnel some of that and then be able to help us, I don't know, as opposed to just doing everybody's book. We don't have to have.
No,
this
no,
discussion tonight.
but we have to, we have to get volunteers.
Right,
Because
yeah,
that's,
no.
the number one committee that I think the 2 committees that are absolutely essential are the ARC and the solar commission. And from a community perspective, one maintains the community and the other makes the community a happier place.
Yeah.
Right, so to me, those are the 2, and then, the baseline of any community is security.
Right.
So, and I'm not necessarily talking just about breaking in people's houses and things like that. It's, the community itself, protecting the facilities.
Yeah.
And reducing our liability. That's really what I see the community security patrol doing.
Would it be a big deal? I'm so sorry. I forgot to take minutes. Would it be a big deal to put out maybe the possibility of a new committee since we're gonna leave it open for another month and see if people might be interested in the facility committee?
I don't want to do a facility committee. I don't think we need a committee. I think that
I think
Patty is a facility committee.
But yeah, because I think as soon as you do that, it's just gonna become a dumping ground for everybody to gripe about every little thing.
Like, if
And
there's a
then you're gonna
problem,
get dropped.
the entire community is the committee. We have at Folio, if there's an issue, you go in, you put in a maintenance request for the pool. If somebody sees something broken with the pool, they go and put a maintenance request.
Or we find it ourselves and at the dog park. So all the HOA common areas, that's totally under me.
Yeah.
So
Understood.
I don't want a committee underneath me.
Well, or, because like for security, they came up with solutions and ideas. You would want someone helping you to track down solutions for the dog park to give you other options or, okay?
She's been bringing it to us and we're trying to.
And I mean, what they do is they help with running the bids and they help, evaluating the bids and those kinds of things, but.
Yeah.
I only bring it out as
Yeah.
just, it's another example, but I wasn't saying, let's do it.
Right.
It's just,
Anyway.
if you start getting to the point where. It's becoming more and more complex and,
Then I'll ask that.
but since we have trouble filling the existing committees, I'm hesitant to add a new one that we can follow.
Yeah.
And that's not a criticism, people are busy.
Yeah.
It's just-
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Human
We try to
nature.
find 38 elements.
Yeah.
Right.
For the Facebook, Ken, is it okay, we just say, if you have admin privileges and you see something that's obviously a scam, just deny it?
Yes.
That makes sense.
And if you see something that looks legit, you know, a lost dog or whatever, and you think it's legit, approve it. And if you see anything that you think is inappropriate, just delete it or remove it or whatever.
Who is an admin on Facebook?
I think everybody, the whole board.
Yeah, I may have the privileges, but I will not.
Yeah.
accept. I was voted in and I didn't accept the joke,
Okay,
I'll have my-
and I will not accept the joke.
it's just good to know these things. right?
Yeah, no.
They may be already taken
No,
care of.
absolutely,
Yeah.
right, but I mean, other than therapy and my kids in the afternoon, like, I'm done, I don't plan on getting them anytime soon. But, so I don't mind helping, I just don't wanna overstep, and I also don't wanna not do something I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep, yep.
And there may be other people who feel the same way, maybe they don't, so I just wanted to bring it up as a big, I'll be the big dummy in the room,
No,
let's
no,
have these conversations.
I don't even go on Facebook.
Yeah.
Only when I need dryer vent cleaning, which seems.
Everywhere.
Then I defer to my expert.
Um, And then is there any other way we can utilize or streamline improved community outreach? We've got Facebook non-officials, we've got Facebook POA official. I think it was great. Hey, we're gonna close the pool. Let's put it on Facebook as soon as we can. I know we have some folks who don't use Facebook. So is there any other?
We put it out through Appfolio.
Put it out through Appfolio.
And
I-
post it on the website.
And I would like to reinvigorate the quarterly newsletter idea.
Yeah.
We kind of, during the holidays, we lost focus on that.
Yep.
I would like, I know that, you said your daughter, right? She put a lot of time and effort into that.
Yeah, but she has a draft and she'll modify it anyway. So I mean,
So-
if Crystal, something like I said, I think this, you know, wants to even write it up and bring it into, you bring it in the next meeting, I'll give it to her. She's got time.
So she has the format and everything. Is it
Absolutely.
efficient to just give her articles in a Word document? And then she can take them and put them in her format.
At this point, she probably
So
has.
anybody on the
capacity.
board can write an article or a summary of what happened.
I will send the electrons out to
Yeah,
everybody.
let's take a look at it.
And because there are, and again, it was a draft.
Yeah.
you know, But there's a place for the president's note. If the president's away, the vice president can, fill in that section and say, hey.
Yeah.
It's
It
a good
has,
spot for the
it has the-
lawsuit we just talked about.
right, it has list of, hot items, it has a security box. I think it's designed to be a front and back.
Yeah, let's try to get one like quarterly, right? So January, February, March. Let's try to get one on March, at the end of March.
Yeah.
April, May, end of June.
So I'll make sure, I think I have the electronics, if not, I'll get them and I'll send them back out.
Thank you, sir.
Um,
Other.
Oh, one other thing I did have is, again, I'm volunteering my daughter, but she has extra capacity right now. Do we want her to put a video together of facilities that we could then post on Facebook if somebody wants to learn about Fish Hawk, the pools?
The only way
game-
that they have access to Facebook is if they live in Facebook, in Bishop.
Do we have a website? We have a website. We
Website.
could post it. I'm just, she has some extra capacity. It's almost, it's helpful for her to use her tools.
You know who's gonna use that the most? Realtors.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I just as a thought to say, okay, this way, yeah, and the realtors might put it on their thing, but do we care?
Yeah.
Just, I mean,
And another thing, I think, we have a files section on the Facebook POA page and also the non-official pages. Are there things that we could place there that could be useful, like upcoming events or the quarterly newsletter, which where upcoming events would be, right? Like, the security reports as we start to get them. So I think maybe utilizing some of the additional parts of the Facebook page to be like, hey, here's where some of these, I don't think we need, it's up to you about Appfolio. I don't know how everybody's is familiar with Appfolio or on it as much, but I'm on Facebook almost every day.
well, that's what I also thought, the newsletter, it doesn't have to be mailed out.
Right.
It could be emailed, it can be posted,
Yeah.
and it can be posted on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Right,
And on the
say,
website.
Well, you could
right on the website.
Yeah,
but
you
it
could
was
pin it for a
designed to
post
be-
for a week or two and then put it into the files, right?
Yeah, then it's just, there's a tally of them as
And-
go forward.
And I'm happy to help with some of this communication to see if there's things that we can start to do to communicate better and share more. So that it's not necessarily just Facebook, but also we are using it effectively for not just bad things, but also good things, right? We're not just denying people and asking questions if they can find some of this stuff. And I'm not trying to put holodocs out there. We have a place for that that's official and formal, but there's some informal stuff that we could be sharing or soon could be sharing. I would like to start looking at all the soil stuff and the resources and putting together a resource thing for the neighborhoods and just be like, hey, here's resource pages and solutions and free testing for the homeowners like myself who don't get to have someone come and do this for me. Here's how you get these resources and they're free and readily available. And they're gonna start.
For the Facebook, for the
Well, yeah.
website, because then it could be posted on the
So
website.
both, so I'm happy to start putting together things I've already created, but and helping us expand that, but if you guys are open to that, I'd like to start looking at some of that as ways we can improve communication, and access to information on apps, so people are already on all the time. And that, folks, I will leave it with, my apologies for delaying the meeting, but and I'm not trying to frustrate anybody, just, I don't like to operate in the gray unless I'm pretty confident and been around long enough to be able to do that. I've not been in a hole before, and I want to make sure we're on the same page where we can be.
It's always gray, you just think it isn't.
No, but at least now I know the shades of gray and what
No,
we're,
I mean,
and then you're on the
well-
same page with the gray as somebody else could come in and be like, that's black. And you're like, well, we hope the board voted that that would be gray. So we're gonna go with gray right now. But it just, I want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Yep, it's good discussion.
Any other comments?
Make motion that we end the meeting. Can I
Motion
make
to
that
adjourn,
motion?
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank
Okay.
you, Sue.